everyone who came up and took part in our tribute here. It's very moving. I appreciate all the sentiments that everybody had. And we stand with everyone who's had a loss this year. It's been a tough year for us all. Now, let's talk about healing for a minute. Healing can be defined as the process of making or becoming sound or healthy again. It's a process that can come at us sideways, from unexpected directions. It can take the place of healing of the mind or the spirit instead of the body. We can help the process along in others, consequently healing ourselves as we do so. Sometimes healing comes when we don't feel we deserve it at all. Jesus shows us all of this and more from today's scripture reading. Jesus has arrived in Jerusalem during a festival time, and he's seeking to celebrate along with all of Israel that's present what God had done to save and sustain the people of Israel in the past. It's not clear what festival this is, because John is focused on making a particular point or two and really doesn't care to give you all those details. But it's the Sabbath day. This we know. It's a day of worship. It's not, by tradition, a day when work should be done. So, Jesus enters through what's known as the Sheep Gate. It's in the northern wall. And it's near the temple. And they believe it's called the Sheep Gate because this is where you would drive the sheep that were being brought to the temple for sacrifice into the temple facility. The temple is pretty close, as a matter of fact. There is a pool there, and it's got 5 porticos around it. That's a fancy way of saying porches with columns and roofs. And it is right outside of the outer wall of the outer part of the temple. So those porticos were probably associated directly with the temple itself. It might be that the sacrificial sheep were washed in that pool when they were brought in before they headed on into the temple. But it's also known as a special pool. It was one of a series of pools that were in that area that some had associated with a Greek god, Asclepius. And this pool in particular was believed to have healing powers. And the blind and the lame and the paralyzed, they gathered in the shadows and under the cover of those 5 fancy porches, hoping that they would have a chance to get into the healing waters. And John is really intent on making this particular point or two that he's going to make and we'll get to later. So he's left out a whole lot of extraneous details, like what made this a healing pool, and how did you know when it was the right time to go in? Obviously it wasn't when the sheep were in the pool. But how did you know when to go? And who was it who got healed? There's a lot of details that have been left out here. In fact, this was so exasperating that a later author couldn't stand it any longer and filled in some details. He said an angel from God came down in particular seasons, not saying which seasons those were, and would stir up the water of the pool, and the first person who got into the pool would be cured of whatever disease they had. And it was the blind and the lame and the paralyzed who were waiting for that, so that could be a pretty tough thing, trying to be first in the pool. Desperate people stayed there, hoping against hope that they would be cured. And the place became named Bethsaida, which means the house of grace or the house of disgrace, depending on who you talk to. And it was a place that had been shunned by many because the sick were gathering there. And that was a scary thing for some people. But Jesus is never afraid to wade in amongst miserable folk, especially if he can provide a healing ministry and some hope. It's a shame the temple authorities who were right next door didn't feel the same way. So it became the house of grace on this particular day when Jesus walks up, and he meets a particular sufferer. Do we have such places like this near our own walls? Do we know? Jesus spots one particularly miserable man in the shadows of one of those porches, near one of the columns perhaps, a sufferer who has been waiting 38 years to try to be healed. Now that's 38 years when the average person has the lifespan of 40 years. So this individual has been ill most of their life. That's a long time to be suffering, hoping against hope, year after year, that you'll be the first to make it into the pool this time. But this man is friendless, he's helpless, and he's been failing time and time again. He's too weak to move fast enough to be there first, and he has no one to help. He dreams of what it would be like to be healed. He's focused all his hopes, all his dreams, all his efforts on that one pool of water. Those particular special times. I'm sure he could describe that pool to you in painstaking detail in every season of the year. And the endless years roll by, disappointment after disappointment. It's enough to twist a person, to suffer that long, to be denied your hopes for that long. It was obvious to Jesus that he'd been sick for a very long time. Jesus walks up to him and asks him a simple question. Do you want to be made well? Now, this sick man has been so fixated on this pool, he doesn't respond positively to Jesus, as so many did, with, yes, please. No. Instead, he tells Jesus how he's always beaten into that pool of water. When it's stirred up, he's fixated on his own failure, on the lack of help, on his inability to be healed. And there's no faith left over for hoping that Jesus could do something about the situation. There's no idea that there might be healing from another direction standing right in front of him. Now we get to one of John's main points, one of the reasons he left out all those other details. He says, you see, Jesus acts on God's unprovoked grace. Jesus' abundant love and God's abundant love that seeks to bring wholeness to a broken world. John is intent on proving that a person doesn't have to be good enough, faithful enough. You can't earn healing. You can't buy your way into it. God's Holy Spirit and Jesus are going to move where they will. We talked about that. And healing as God wills. Further, there's no mention of what the man did to end up in his sad condition. No suggestion that sin was involved in what he had done. Physical impairments are not sin. In fact, these days, every person is destined, on average, to spend about 8 years in some way impaired. Sin comes into the picture when no accommodations are made for someone who is impaired. When there is no easy access to public spaces or to public restrooms. When there's no accommodation made to help someone fill out a form or to vote. When no corrective measures are taken, like this man suffering for all those years and no temple priest ever showed up. Not once. Barriers are a sinful disregard of others. The sick man explains to Jesus the barriers that he suffered with for those long, long 38 years. How he'd been kept from the cure, how there were no able-bodied friends for him to dig a hole through a roof and lower him down in front of Jesus. There was no good Samaritan coming along the road and see him suffering in the portico instead of the ditch. There's a staggering loneliness that accompanies this sickness. It accompanies sickness and infirmity in general. Imagine being that close to the temple, the very center of the life of the people of Israel, and yet being utterly alone. People coming and going, excited at festival times, yet no one comes to break your silence, your aloneness, your pain, to provide a little healing, since healing goes so much beyond just a cure. In fact, that's an excellent discussion right there, a difference that I found between cure and healing. It's really important. A cure is the immediate removal of a condition, like having a cyst removed. Poof, that's a cure. But a healing goes a lot deeper. A healing is more personal. It involves trying to bring a person back to wholeness. It's psychological help for someone. Moving them towards acceptance of the conditions they have, negotiating with them where they can go, what they can do, how they can adapt, and developing trust with a person. So it's a lot more complicated. And it's something more of us can actually help with and be helped with than a cure. Not many of us can cure somebody of something. I can't take up a scalpel, thank God. But I can certainly develop trust with someone and work with them, or they can work with me, trying to get myself into a better state of mind. We can spend time with the ill in their homes and hospitals, nursing homes. We can take people on doctor's visits or not be too proud to ask for someone to do that for us. We can advocate for greater access for people in public places, tearing down the barriers, whether the body can be cured or not, helping the afflicted come to terms with the conditions, and trusting us in the process. I've only been hospitalized once, and I thank God for that. They took great care of me. Everything else has been outpatient, so get it out. But it was 2 days that I was in there, 2.5 actually, and I didn't realize until then just how much time you spend alone in a place like that. I watched more Clint Eastwood movies. My 2.5 days there, they were running a whole special. Some were great. Some of them weren't. So I was delighted anytime anybody showed up. It was wonderful. Since the man had been ill, was struggling to move, he'd been that way almost as long as the Israelites had wandered in the wilderness. Almost 40 years. And frustrated in all his hopes for a cure, perhaps he no longer had enough hope left in him to respond positively to Jesus when Jesus asked his question about whether or not he'd like to be cured. Jesus says simply to him at that point, he just cuts to the chase, he says, stand up, take up your mat and walk. Trust him. Which is what he does. Doesn't thank Jesus, doesn't ask for his name, doesn't have any joy about it. He just picks up his mat, rolls it up, puts it under his arm and leaves. But now, he's breaking a Sabbath day rule. He's carrying his mat. You can't do that. And for the first time in 38 years, the temple authorities take notice of him. You're breaking a rule. Well, it's what I was told to do. Who told you that? The guy that cured me. What's his name? I don't know. Didn't ask. Probably. Leaders are not very happy with this. Man has kind of thrown Jesus under the chariot, figuratively speaking, at this point. But then Jesus meets up with him in the temple. He's gone to the temple now to celebrate. And Jesus meets up with him there and says, see, you've been made well. Do not sin anymore, so that nothing worse happens to you. This is cryptic. Remember what we said about sin and infirmity a minute ago. And scholars have mulled this over for a long time, and they think that what Jesus is saying is one of two things. Either he's suggesting that he be more demonstrative of gratitude when something good happens to him, when he's been helped, or that perhaps he needs to drop this fixation he's had for 38 years on this one pool of water as he moves forward with his life, since he now sees that healing comes from an entirely different source. And the healed man now, he mulls that over, and what does he do? Does he thank Jesus? No. He turns around, he has his name now, so he goes back to the church leaders and says, well, it was Jesus that did it. Oh, really? They're not too pleased with this. And so they go and they find Jesus, and they said, how dare you be performing miracles on the Sabbath? How dare you fix this guy on the Sabbath day? And Jesus says something that really upsets them, because he puts himself on level with God. He says, well, you see, my Father is still busy today, so I'm going to be busy too. Doesn't matter to him what day it is, therefore it doesn't matter to me. I'm going to help somebody that I see needs help. And the leaders, they wanted to kill him so bad right then. But Jesus reminds us all that, like the Holy Spirit, Jesus is going to go where Jesus wills to go. And no puny human barriers or traditions are going to stand in the way, and Jesus is going to call us to do the same. So let's be attuned to the little miracles of life. This is one reason I suggest coming on this walking prayer, because it gets you attuned to the natural world around you that is full of miracles, on the small scale. The way that Jesus gets in past our expectations, provides spiritual healing through teachings, through other people who can help us. Let's be like Jesus and strip away the barriers from those that are in need, making it possible for them to have access, and later for us to have access as well. We have veterans around us who are in serious need of help, and they often get overlooked. This is not the way it ought to be. So we can bear hope that Jesus will guide us and provide healing for us when we're hurt, steering us towards a community that can lift us up when we're down and when we're hurting. Let's be grateful for that, for all that Jesus does for us, for all that he did with his crucifixion and resurrection, as well providing us with a better life in the here and now, as well as eternal life. And we can remember from the story this vital information that God's love, God's physical and spiritual healing, is not contingent on the quality or the quantity of our faith. We can't buy that love. It is grace that has been given to us freely. So be encouraged by this. No matter what barriers we face, we should be encouraged. Whether they're real barriers or barriers that we've built up in our own minds, Jesus will pick the right moment to speak to us, to correct us gently, to help us. And it might come through another person, through a story, through the gentle breeze, through birdsong, through scripture, through art, through prayer. Anything else that can challenge our minds and convict our souls. And may that soften our hearts and make us empathetic to the needs of ourselves and to others. And I put ourselves first because we're to love others as ourselves, meaning we have to love ourselves. And there's many times that we end up in a state of exhaustion, and basically mentally we just sort of walk by ourselves on the road, leaving our exhausted selves suffering in the ditch, and try to move on. So let's correct a trend. Since 2000, there's been a significant drop in empathy in this country. There's been an increase in tribalism, an us versus them mentality. And as we learned the other day, all the ancient names for the tribes were human and people and us, making all those who weren't of that tribe not. We can't let that continue. let's reverse that with our gratitude to Jesus. As he said, in that way we will sin no more. Let's pause for a moment of silent reflection. Amen. Please rise for our hymn of response number